everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and we are here to talk a little, we're doing daily talking about Lenormand, but one of Larissa from the Bard's Lament, she used to have a YouTube channel called Storytelling Tea and Tarot. She still has a YouTube channel, but it's called Bard's Lament to match her Instagram. Yay, I thought it was great she did that. Anyway, so she had made a comment on one of my recent videos about Lenormand. You're talking about this, working with Lenormand this month. Whether or not I used more intuition with my Lenormand readings or not. And that is a question that comes up a lot. I see this a lot. It's one of those things that always has surprised me whenever I see it. I feel like I'm probably missing something in how people are using terms, because otherwise I don't know why the question, and I'm not talking about Larissa, she had a very valid question, but I'm talking about why the conversation about intuition and Lenormand, why that would even come up as much as it does if I wasn't missing a language, a word choice, some kind of a word choice thing going on here. So intuition, if you look it up in the dictionary, which I've done, intuition means the ability to understand something immediately without conscious reasoning. So it's that instinctive, bam, this is the hit that you have, right? So I don't believe that this is a personal, now we're talking personal beliefs here. I don't personally believe that we read anything without intuition being in play. So for example, here I have just decks that are on my table at the moment. And so this is a tarot deck, right? So I have studied tarot for, I don't know, 14, 15 years. So I have read it for 9.5 years with the images of the Llewellyn Tarot and the Llewellyn Guidebook in a little teeny tarot book, which I didn't use too much. I mostly used the guidebook. And then I went into some really intensive study and made sure I understood the Rider-Waite, even though I didn't use it. You know, just lots of studying about it. And then, then when I, then just kind of set that aside and went about and did my thing, kind of came up with my own thing, understood what the numbers mean, along with the elements, and kind of build up this thing. And so now, when I were, I'm just literally going to grab here, right? So now when I grab 3 cards, I look at that. So somebody has asked me, if I'm just looking at these outside of a question, then I am coming from my knowledge base, right? So I'm saying, okay, here's the Chariot. It's about confident movement forward. Here's the Strength card. Here's that going inward and bringing about that internal healing that outwardly pushes strength. And I'm looking at the 2 of Pentacles, and this is about balance. Okay, that's just like knowledge that I have. But when you bring a question into the equation, so if I have these cards here and somebody says, I'm feeling really stuck, right? Because that comes up a lot. I'm feeling really stuck. I just want to know how to move forward. Well, here we have, are things going to get moving? Can I get moving? Okay, now here we have the confidence card. So now I say to myself, okay, I have a question. So yeah. Confidence, you're going to be able to move yourself forward. You've got to have confidence in yourself. You've got to tap into your inner strength so that can start to be that outward pushing energy. And you've really got to bring things into a balance, because there's some imbalance going on in your life that is stopping you from moving forward. Okay, so that's reading it with a question. Well, what if the question was, am I going to get this job? I'm really I found this opportunity for a job and I don't know whether it's a good idea. Well, yeah, we've got positive, confident movement forward. We do have the balance card. We do have the strength. This job's probably going to play to their strengths and this kind of thing. And so then I'm answering those intuitively. I'm coming up with a message based on that particular question. Sorry, something's going on outside. So we can see that there is a system in place, and there are set meanings in place, and there is a whole foundation of knowledge that I have to draw from because of years of using it and years of study that I have to draw from. But when it comes down to doing that reading based on this particular moment in time for this particular person and this particular question, that how am I going to read these cards in relation to a particular question, intuition is involved. What is that hit? I'm tapping into whatever you might believe when you're doing a reading. Are you tapping into the collective unconscious? Are you tapping into your your spirit guides? Are you tapping into something divine? Are you tapping into your subconscious? However it is that you feel that you're tapping into, you are tapping into something to get a message for that particular question, for that particular person in that particular time. Intuition, even though there's a knowledge base, intuition still plays a big role in answering the question with that card. So same thing with Oracle. Let me move these out of the way. Same thing with Oracle. So this is an Oracle deck, right? So Oracle decks, some people would say, are even more intuitive than tarot because you don't have like that that system that's been in place for hundreds of years. You probably haven't necessarily at the beginning for a while, maybe spent years and years and years on one particular Oracle deck, and every Oracle deck is a little bit different. And so you really rely more on your intuition. I would argue with that, because if you take this particular deck, this is smaller, but most Oracle decks have an image, and then they have a word, and then sometimes it goes further and they actually have keywords, right? So when I look at this image, am I getting an intuitive hit? Well, yeah, but there is a lore that is built up around images and words. So without even looking at this word, if you've done a lot of reading with decks, butterflies generally do stand for some kind of transformation, some kind of a shift and a change, because they're going through this metamorphic process, right? So even without seeing the words on the bottom, you have a hit that isn't necessarily intuitive. If you want to get technical, it is pulling from your brain vast stores of knowledge, the fact that butterflies often represent transformation, right? And then of course this particular deck, it is for transformation, so we have the word. But let's say here we have, the mountain. Well, there's not really it's just a descriptive word. It's the mountain. Well, so now we get into a little bit more intuitive and think, okay, well, what does the mountain mean? We can obviously go to the guidebook and most people read through the guidebooks at least, so we put that information into our brain. The mountain could be an obstacle, right? Or the mountain could be about endurance. That mountain could be about that idea of something being solid and staying there. In fact, let's take a quick look and see in this particular deck. For Lenormand, that would be an obstacle that you can get around, but it takes a little work to get there. So in this particular deck, let's say 5, I don't have my glasses on, obstacles, encouragement. Oops, I think I have not the English. I'm like, what? I could pick up on one of the words there. Here we go. Obstacle is the will to progress, so that's strength, right? A feeling of loneliness, but also encouragement and struggle, encouraging you to keep going to the top, keep moving forward. So, you can probably have, when you get an Oracle deck, most people do read through the guidebook, and you put those keywords into your brain so that when you see the mountain card, you think about that. You think about the struggle. You see this path going up the mountain. We all know going up a path up a mountain is not easy, so we can think of all of those things come into our head. Is that intuition? Yes, but it is intuition that taps into your storage of knowledge and associations over your lifetime. So it is that ability to understand. You're not consciously sitting there and thinking out those things, but you're assimilating those facts that you have gathered over a lifetime, of reading cartomancy of some sort, and or just in general, what does that stand for in our cultural knowledge, right? Same thing with lies. Some people might not have that association that crossed fingers is a lie, right? That you cross when you tell a lie, you cross your fingers so that it doesn't actually count as a lie. That may not be a cultural thing for everybody, and so this image may come up with something entirely different, right? But we do have the word lie here, and so we can go from that fact that, okay, here's a lie. This is about untruth. This is about something isn't quite the way it should be. Then we have, of course, the transformation that we talked about. So we have those hits, right? We have those hits based on a lot of it on what is the accumulated knowledge that we have from growing up and having all of these images and words inputted and associated with things all of this time, from whatever, from we're born until whatever age we happen to be at. We've accumulated this vast amount of knowledge of what symbols and what images and what words mean. And so we can just sit there and say, okay, transformation lies in mountain, maybe struggle, maybe obstacle. So, okay, that's just kind of the academic. So now we have those same questions. So somebody is stuck and they're feeling like they can't move forward. So then we're looking at this and saying, this is a time for you to transform, that you really probably are stuck because you're in that moment where, with the chrysalis, where you're kind of in the moment of transformation, and the time is coming where you're going to be coming out of that. But there's some things that aren't very clear right now, right? There are some things perhaps even about yourself, because we're talking about, feeling stuck. You may need to sit down and have a really good conversation of where are you really at? Where is it that you really want to go to? You don't want to be fooling yourself. You don't want to be telling yourself what it is that you want to hear. You may even be telling yourself you're stuck when you're really not. You're making yourself feel like you're stuck. And so you want to think about, it might be a time for some really heart-to-heart assessment. And yes, the struggle forward is going to be difficult, but you have to keep persevering. You have to keep pushing on because transformation is coming. Again, I'm just kind of throwing this out there, right? So then let's say we have the same question about the job. So I have a job. This is a job offer has come up. Should I take this opportunity? Should I take this job offer? Okay, well, now we have, this could actually be a big change for you. This job is going to maybe take you in new directions, but we do see that it's not going to be easy, and we also see that you may want to really, if I saw this, I would say, you may want to make sure that you know all the details of the job. Do you know what the job entails? Do you know what the pay is? Get those nailed down and make sure you have a very clear understanding of what. So it doesn't necessarily be that somebody's lying to you, but it can be that idea that you may not have all the information. Somebody's crossing their fingers so that they, can get away with maybe that. But I would just look at that in this particular question. My intuitive hit would be just make sure you have all the details. Make sure that you really know what the pay is. Make sure you know what it entails, how many hours, so you don't think you're working 40 hours a week and you get the job and all of a sudden it's a 60-hour-a-week job doing things that you really had no intention of doing. Make sure you have the details. Understand that it's going to be a struggle because probably this is something new. It's going to bring new challenges. Does that mean it's bad? No, but it means that it is going to be a bit of a struggle, and you will have to, there is going to be some struggle in learning the new things that you have to learn. But this could be a really big opportunity for you. So what I read, so the first things may be just basic information. How I read those cards in relation to the question and the person in that moment in time, those are always, in my opinions, intuitive hits. Because 30 people could look at these and come up with different answers to the question about work. Is this job something that I should take? Everybody could come up with something different. That's where, because otherwise we could literally only ever use, get on our cell phones, do an app saying, here's 3 cards. Not only use those cards to read, but actually have it say, okay, this means this, this, and this, bam, you're done. It would just be something that you could literally go to the fortune teller machine at those county fairs, get that have it spit out a message to you, and bam, you're done, right? If there's no intuition involved, I'm not really sure what the point would be. Plus, I just think it's impossible to read without intuition. Now, I don't believe that Lenormand is any different than what we just talked about. And I'm going to pull specifically for the garden card because that was just the example that Larissa and I were talking about in the comments. So I just want to use that as an example since that's what started all of this, right? So, if we were to look for the garden card and pull the card on either side, and we were to say to ourselves the same the same questions, right? Okay, I'm feeling stuck. I just don't know where to go. I don't know how to move forward. Well, here we have the tree, which we have that sense of well-being. And when you're feeling stuck, you're certainly not having a sense of well-being. This can also be your health. So if you read for health, this could be actually there's some physical things that need to be taken care of. But otherwise, you can think of this as to be about well-being. And we have the garden card. Well, the garden card can be exactly that, the garden, getting outside, going out to the garden, going out into nature, being outside. But it can also be connections, the places where we go in order to connect with other people. In old times, they would go back, they would all go out to, dress up in their finest and go to the gardens. And that's where they would network and meet people and flirt and do business dealings and connect with other people. It was the idea of networking well before probably that term was coined. It could also be literal networking. Okay, where there's some... in order for yourself, what sense of well-being to go, you need to go out into the garden and connect. You need to connect with nature. That's fair. Or for your sense of well-being, you need to start connecting to others. You need to go to the places where the people are that are interested in similar things of you, that share your similar passions. You need to connect with and get together with people, because the dog card is about friendship and connection, the idea of all of these people out there in the world, but there are these certain people that we connect with, that we meet up with, where we form an actual bond. And we could swing around, but this is going to stay connected, unlike all these other dots. So it's just those few people that we come across in which we have that true connection and that true sense of loyalty and friendship to, right? So we could actually say, go to the gardens, you're going to meet your friends, right? You need to get out of the house. For your sense of well-being, you need to go get outside and do something with your friends. You could read it exactly like this. For your sense of well-being, you need to go outside into the garden and get your hands into the dirt, right? You need to get your hands dirty. You need to get your feet into the ground. You need to really start to connect with the earth, connect with the great outdoors, connect with, you're disconnected from the world, from the physical world. And the first place to start in order for you to get to a better space is to actually get your feet into the dirt, right? So, and that's just two. So here is the Enchanted Lenormand Oracle, which is an amazing little guidebook that has a lot of information packed into it. And here is the garden card. Anything that's outside, festivals, street parties, municipal parks. It's also meaning of the public. Unlike the bird's bouquet, which is trendy, and bouquet, which is fashionable, the garden is popular, or what the masses say. Recreation, enjoyment. Look at all these keywords. Outdoors, countryside, social gatherings, public interest, group, club, meeting place, recreation, entertaining, party, ease, leisure, cultivation in public domain, crowd, audience, enjoyment, escapism, growing things, municipal, publicized, park, fleeting, carnival, street market, team, class, public relations, environment, group opportunity, venue, country club, green or environmental concerns, popular, the masses, exposure, rave, unrestrained, festival, community, society, superficial, central, or marketplace. And that's just keywords. That's not people, and the different ways that you might read it if it's to do with different things. That is a ton of keywords. And that's just one guidebook, right? There are whole, and this is a guidebook for a specific deck. There are whole books that probably, although I think she has probably the most thorough keywords that I've seen. That is a ton of keywords, right? So there is no way that you can approach these three cards for this specific question, for this specific person, without using your intuition. It's not, Lenormand is not just a plug three cards in and have a sentence come out with no real sense of intuition, no really tapping into your intuition. Now, you tap into your intuition perhaps differently, whereas in a tarot card, as we were talking about, you might be looking and seeing, well, okay, well, look, he's standing here, he's got one foot up in the air, and So he's unbalancing here, but he's also got 2 coins that he's trying to balance. And we can see that he has a green cloak, and that green cloak might stand for some growth. And he's got a lot of blue on him, and blue is a color of water. And so we have emotional growth. We have the yellow for air. We have the green for earth, and we have the red for fire. So we have all of the elements in balance. You see what I'm saying? We could actually go really into this and say, okay, well, I think that this means that we need to have all the elements in balance, because when we have one element out of balance, it's, and kind of go off from there, right? So we may not go to all that depth here. We're not going to say, okay, well, here we have the color blue and the color green. We've got the sky and the earth, and it's meeting together in the middle. We have that sense of connection. We have that sense of coming together that happens in the garden. So yeah, you can use the images if you don't remember, but you don't need it. That's what the word garden is for. This is the garden card. The garden means coming together, going to the places where people meet. It also can mean just going outdoors, and depending on the question. So if I was reading this for somebody who I knew was into horticulture and gardening, I would say, okay, well, for your sense of well-being, yeah, you need to get out into the garden. You need to go out into nature. You need to go get your feet into the dirt, and you're going to come and make some really strong connections here. And we can read this even as making connections with the plants, and making connections with this person deals with plant energy and plant lore. This is where we're going to make some really strong connections, right? For somebody else, for another question, that might be, you know what? For your sense of well-being, you've got to get out. You need to go to some parties. You need to go out where there are people, like-minded people, so that you can make some friendships, because this is really important. You're too isolated right now, so on and so forth. Different ways. There are so many different ways of being able to read the same 3 cards in a specific question from a specific person at a specific time, that our intuition has to say, what is that thing that pops right up? Now, people are going to have various, beliefs about where is that coming from? Is that coming from within, right? Is that coming from knowledge of the cards? Yes. Is that coming from the way that we recognize what a tree or a garden or a dog mean in the system? Yes. Does it come from what we think about trees and gardens and dogs outside the system just as symbols? Yes. Does it come from our own inner sense of, if we've worked with the cards for a while, we know what they come up for, and it comes up for routinely, and we get our own experience in there? Yes. Can it be from our subconscious? Yes. Can it be from the collective unconscious? Yes. Can it be from divinity, if you believe that you connect to the divine with cards? Sure. Can it be from your spirit guides? Sure. Whatever it is that you're using to tap into, it's coming from more than just, this is a tree, this is a garden, this is a dog. Well-being, going out, finding friends. Bam, the sentence is over. There's nothing else to say. And I just feel that sometimes people have the wrong idea. And I just see strange statements of that it doesn't, we don't use our intuition while we don't read Lenormand cards intuitively. And yes, we may not read and say, but yeah, there's a predominance of blue here, and there's blue over here, and so we can see this movement from green into blue, and that's telling us you're going to get some forward motion here, then going on, within the images of the cards itself, because a dog is a dog is a dog, a ship is a ship is a ship. However, even in Lenormand, especially in Kipper, and other things of that nature, but even in Lenormand, that flow of movement from the images does come into play traditionally. What direction is the rider riding in? What, is the scythe point pointing in this direction, or is the blunt end pointing in that direction? If you use directionality, that's quite similar as well. So there's many different ways to read all different card systems. Lenormand definitely has a quicker, blunter style. The sentences that it makes are quicker. They are more like sentences than going in and diving in and having this giant conversation about 3 cards. They are a little more succinct, but the sentences that this one set of 3 cards can make, depending on the person and the question and the situation and the moment in time, time are huge variety. And so the only way that in that moment we have that answer is through listening to our intuition. So I wanted to kind of put that aside, and not everybody believes that. I just hear that a lot. So I just wanted to weigh in on my thoughts on, do we read Lenormand intuitively? And my answer to that question is that anything that we read, whether I cast geomancy stone sticks down and get the dragon's tail, whether I don't have, oh, do I have in here? Nope, those are dice. I was going to say I might have. Whether I take a handful of my charms in my charm casting set and throw it down. Whether I draw a tarot card. Whether I draw a couple oracle cards. Whether I take a pile of stones, various different color stones, and toss them down. Whatever it is that I may be going to read as an oracle, my intuition is going to come into play. That is part of it. It is that ability, as the description said, to understand something immediately without conscious reasoning. Now, it doesn't mean that what we've learned isn't down there in the subconscious. It is. Everything that we've learned about different systems, about symbols, about butterflies, about fingers crossing, about the word lies, about foxes, about suns, about trees in bloom, about springtime. All of those things that we have accumulated over a lifetime are there. Those are resources for this single image, right? Or this single word garden, or this single card, the moon, to drop us into a space in which those symbols can tell us something. So, yes, I do believe that we read Lenormand with intuition. And yes, I do believe that you can get all different layers from Lenormand. That Lenormand isn't just for, am I going to get a pizza today, right? That it can be for questions such as, I'm feeling spiritually blocked and I need to figure out a way forward. Where's my path forward spiritually? It can have a variety of different applications, just as all the other things can. So I hope that this has been of interest to you. And if you have anything to weigh in on that conversation, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. And I'm really looking forward to this Lenormand and hashtag Lenormand that we are heading out into. P.S. I've got one more P.S. here. I was just outside with these things because I wanted to let you know that on Instagram, so if you don't already follow me, my Instagram is the @ the Truth and Story. Or also on my Facebook page for the Truth and Story. I will be doing a Lenormand, as we talked about, hashtag Lenormand, and I'll put my Instagram ID as well as the hashtag below, where every day I will be pulling a card on either side of the next card in the Lenormand deck. So for example, today was the Rider, right? So with the Rider, again, this is my test deck. Actually, this is my good test deck. So I'm trying to be good with it because I think what I'm going to do is frame these cards because it will be my very first official one, right? So you're just going to go ahead and shuffle, and then this is how I do, is I pull for, if I'm going to pull for a specific card, I go through the cards, of course, I didn't rifle shuffle or anything, so I will find today is a day for 1st of June, so I would start with the Rider, and I pull the card on either side and read it. So for today, the cards that came up when I just did it was the Lily card and the Sun card. So the Rider is about messages coming to you, right? So here we have a message that with balance and harmony comes happiness. I mean, that's a real simple one, isn't it? And a beautiful message. So then tomorrow, then I will be looking for, let me find it, for the Clover card. So the Clover is a little bit of happiness and joy that comes from being mindful, and I'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow, how I feel about that. But I will be then looking for the the clover card and seeing what's on either side of the clover card, and so on and so forth, all the way through the Lenormand, the deck of Lenormand cards. And that's how I'm going to approach on Instagram, Junimond, hashtag Junimond. And then on my YouTube channel, of course, just lots and lots of hopefully quickish videos. So have a wonderful day again.